got my first education in education from Shortwood Teachers College. That's where I went. And then before I moved here and studied psychology, and then I went back into education again after that. Um, Today, our focus, however, is going to be on classroom management, and I'm going to, I'm the type of teacher, let me just tell you before, set our stage, that I like for everybody to be engaging. So I will speak for 12 minutes, no more than 12 minutes, and then I'll give you a chance to get feedback and answer questions and tell me about what you've learned so far so I can gauge and answer questions to suit your individual needs at the same time. Feel free to stop me if you have a question as well. So in setting the stage, I just kind of want to know your name, the level that you teach currently, and your school. So whenever you're ready, take the floor. Who wants to go first?
Okay, so my name is Marcella Bailey. I am currently a first grade teacher at Navahead Primary School. That's in Portmore, St. Catherine.
Hey, hometown.
That's about it.
Okay, my name is Trisha Carty. I'm currently a grade 3 teacher at St. Patrick's Primary School.
I know St. Patrick's. Mm-hmm.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Marcia. I am currently apps person, special education facilitator at the Bogwalk High School, formerly the Bogwalk High School, which is now the Enid Bennett High School. I work with those students who are not working or performing at the level that they should be performing. So I work with teachers and students to create intervention programs for these students.
Nice.
You know, I mean,
Dennis? Denise.
I am Denise Fraser, yes. I teach at the Guy's High School, that's way up in the St. Catherine Hills. I border 3 parishes, St. Anne, St. Mary, and St. Catherine. Physical education teacher. I teach all the grades, 7 to 11.
Just like one more.
Is there anyone else on?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
I'm Michelle. All right, I teach at Titchfield High School. I teach, it's a traditional high school. I teach grade 10 and 11.
Great. All right, nice. Did I miss anybody? No? All right, so we'll move on to the next slide. Now, because this is actually a collaborative setting, we're going to just go over the norms of collaboration, and you can take a picture of this. This is something you can use in your own classroom. It's a strategy that enforces and is highly effective for behavior management as well, and it sets the stage for your students to understand what you expect from them. So you can take a picture of the screen or you can write it down. However, I'm going to give you a minute just to read it through on your own, and then give me finger minute to let me know how much more time you would need to read through. But I do need you to choose 2 that you're going to focus on throughout this conference, all right? So I set my timer. This is a strategy you use in your classroom as well. We have about 5 more seconds. All right, so my time is up, but I don't want to take away time from anyone. So what I'd like is just give me a finger minute, like 1 for 1 minute, 2 for 2 minutes of how much more time you need to finish reading through and making your choice. Anyone needs any more time? For 1 minute to,
Yeah,
No.
1
all
minute.
right. All right, so I'll set it to the median, which is like 1.5 minutes, just to give you time to read through and choose 2 strategies that you're going to use throughout the day. We have about 30 more seconds.
So let me in the vinegar, please. Hello? I'm home. We're doing a workshop online. All right, then later.
All right, so I'm going to bring everybody back because the timer just went off. Now I'm going to share what I'm doing. And this is something you'll do with your students just to get them focused and let them understand that, okay, I'm a part of this class and I'm modeling what it should look like. So I'm going to be using 4 and 3. I'm going to use 4 to put ideas on the table since I'm actually running the workshop. And I'm going to pose questions to you at certain intervals for you to ask out of me. If you need this, I can ask Leo or you can ask him and I will send it to you, a PDF copy of this that you can use inside your own classroom as well. Especially for high school teachers, you can use it just as is. If you're in primary education or early ed, then of course you'll have to make this student friendly. So you'll have to use less words and make it like possibly I can statement. I can pause when I listen to someone else speak. I can share my ideas with my friends in class. I can ask and answer questions about the concept I'm learning, like stuff like that. Okay, and of course, I'm resourced, so you can always ask me at any time, how can you do this differently? So as with any well-managed classroom, you always want to start with your objectives. You want to make sure that your students understand what is it you expect of them. So you want to make them visible as well. So we know we have different types of learners, and an effective teacher wants to make sure that we present our ideas and our objectives in a way that all learners can learn. So we start off with it in print. That will take care of your auditory learners. Then you will say it out. That allows, read it to the class or have a student read depending on the age group. That will take care of your students who are visual learners. And you can also have the students write it at the beginning of the lesson in their notebook or on their folder paper so that they understand what they're going to learn. And this takes care of your kinesthetic or your tactile learners if you use that strategy. So we'll start off with develop rewards and consequences for appropriate and inappropriate behaviors. Plan tiered intervention to target the different levels of unacceptable behavior. Develop tools for communicating positively with students to promote and maintain good behavior. And I'm a quote collector. I find that when I use them in my classroom setting, I teach 4th grade right now. When I use it in my classroom setting, my students really, really understand what I'm trying to say to them. So my quote for today is, depending on what they are, our habits will either make us or break us. We become what we repeatedly do. And that was written by this guy here who wrote this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And my entire presentation is based on this, along with other resources that, you know, emphasizes good behavior management. I had a thought earlier that maybe I'll see if I can get some books donated, these, and for whoever participated today might be able to get one of these. I'll see, maybe I'll do a drawing if I can't afford to buy all of them to give one to everybody, but we'll see. This is one of my favorite quotes. I've been using this for a few years now. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. And the fact that you guys logged on today to the time out of your Sunday showed me that you're a leader. And the hope is that that is being transpired into your classroom. And if it's not right now, we're going to work on getting it there. Now, we're going to break down a concept that we're, you know, reinforcing today. I don't think you're learning it for the first time, so it's definitely being reinforced. What does behavior management means to you? And I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of think time just to consider what it means to you. And then we're going to share out. And everybody doesn't have to share out. The willing parties will share out first. And if all of you want to, I'm willing to listen. So 30 seconds, think time. All right, and the time is up. The purpose for me doing think time is it gives kids a chance to formulate their ideas and think about how am I going to present my idea rather than just calling on them. It gives the students who are not quick to feed a chance to kind of, okay, where am I going with this? What did she ask me? What should my answer sound like? It gives them that extra time. So that's a little bit of differentiation for your special ed students. And for your shy students, give them time to warm up and think before they speak. Now, who'd like to share out? What do you think behavior management means?
I think because we have so many different students in class, it is knowing how to cope or how to deal with the different attitudes and behavior that you have, that you are put in charge of.
Marcella?
I think it's about understanding someone's behavior, and if it's negative, then you will have to find a solution to help the child or person cope positively.
Okay. And Marcia?
Well, for me, in terms of behavior management, as I say, it's being able to identify issue or a problem that the child is having and to find a solution to fix that so that it doesn't interfere with that, affect that child in the for the long term and those around the child also.
Yeah. Michelle?
For me, behavior management means getting students to change their negative behavior that they portray in class and outside of the classroom, the positive ones that will help them in their future and help others around them.
All right, so one of the good strategies, again, you're engaging your students, you're getting to know a little bit of what they know, so you're making an informal assessment at the same time before even getting into the concept. That again gives students a chance to showcase what I already know about it. And also it kind of gauges them because now they know, okay, I've said this, am I right? So they're going to listen throughout to hear ideas that would follow that. That's a part of the engagement process, which is a big component of behavior management. Now, what good teachers do after is give feedback on the answers. Yes, I heard some very important words. You're validating the students now. So they're going to be more on your side and want to listen to what you have to say following this. So I heard monitor, I heard facilitate, I heard being able to change, which is good. And those are some very, very key words that behavior management encompasses. So I'll give you my definition, which is forever evolving, because we all know as educators that nothing stays the same in education. We have to stay updated and keep changing and adding new words to our wheel. So for right now, where I am is creating and maintaining a classroom environment that is culturally and linguistically relevant, subsequently resulting in a systematic instructions and positive learning outcome. And I've highlighted these keywords, which I want to go further with you. But right now, I want you to think about self-assessment piece right now, because we're continue growing as we're learning. That's the whole process of learning, right? So can these words used to describe your current classroom environment and explain? And again, I'm going to give you think time, because it's very important. Very, very important to keep kids engaged. You want to know you have a voice in my classroom. So 30 seconds should be good. About 5 more seconds. And time is up. And just to let you know, I notice I keep timing, letting the kids know when the time is running out. My kids with anxiety, that might not work for them, so you will have to gauge. The kids who don't have anxiety issues, that gauges them to know, okay, well, my time is almost up. So if I wasted some time, this is my last opportunity to find an answer. Again, it is the process of classroom engagement. All right, who wants to share it? I'll take 2 persons this time. And what I'll do at this point is I'll use a strategy called airplane stacking. It's a Kagan strategy that lets the student know, okay, you're gonna be first, you're gonna be second, and then I'm no longer in front of the class because now it's their turn. So who wants to go first? Let me see. All right,
I'll go first.
Okay, all right. And who's second? Who wants to go second? Come on. Venice is smiling really big, so I'm just gonna volunteer her. That's one. You know your position now. Number 1.
All right. You said, can these words be used to describe my current classroom environment?
Yeah.
Culturally,
Yes.
or in terms of culture for my classroom environment, I have students from different backgrounds that have been exposed to different things. So I have students who have different experiences, students who have traveled, and students who have not been anywhere. Basically, they just stay here. So culturally, you look at the fact that, okay, all right, at the end of high school, are you going to be staying in one area, or are you going to be spreading your wings and going abroad? So in terms of that, for me, when you talk about culturally, is that they have to know different culture, and they have to embrace other culture, because they're going to be going out in the world later on. Linguistically relevant, I don't know what that means.
Like the language that they use in class.
I don't see, I don't, say it again?
The language that they're using in class, how they speak.
Okay, all right. So the language that they use in class. For my students, they talk the way that they text. That's the way they talk, the way that they text. And it is wrong, because even when you give them something to write, they write the same way. And I'm saying that this cannot work out there in the real world. They have to make adjustments, and they're just not getting it. They're, even when they're talking to you, the language is, I don't want to say bad, but the language is poor. So whenever they write and they use text language, I redline it or I circle it and let them correct it, because they cannot write a document and hand it to anybody with those kind of words in there. Systematic instructions and positive learning outcomes. That is what I want from my students. I want to say, okay, I am teaching office administration, and office administration basically is a skill. So when I teach about receptionist or how you behave in an office, now I expect that when they, at the end of the school year, they go for work experience, they should be able to display positive outcomes based on what they have learned at school.
Right.
And that is what I'm looking for. And if and say, for instance, when I teach them to type letters and legal documents, that they're able to transfer this knowledge when they are given work experience. So and so that's basically for me where I see these words fitting in my classroom.
All right. I'm going to give you feedback afterwards, but I'm going to hear from Venice first. Go ahead.
All right. So culturally, can these words be used to describe your current classroom environment? Culturally, for me, like, what was her name again? Who spoke before me again?
Michelle.
Michelle, right. Like Michelle said, that we have a diverse cultural background here, because some of the children are underexposed, unexposed. Some of them are very exposed. So you're dealing with a mixed culture when it comes to the classroom, as it is for my classroom right now. So I have a challenge there. Linguistically relevant, it's the English versus the patois. And here in Jamaica, we have a mixed patois. So some speak deep rural patois and some might speak uptown patois. So here you have another challenge, yet they are expected to write English for exams. But then we have the challenge of them just speaking the patois. Plus now that is coupled with the texting language that is really, really posing a challenge.
Yes.
Systematic instruction too. Here we have mixed ability. So even so, we have a challenge here, because now some of your children might be grasping your concept readily. Others are trying to grasp it. And then you still have some who will never, ever grasp it. How do I get a positive learning outcome?
Okay. I like the fact that you guys really draw on your personal experience right now, which is really good, because this class is targeting some of those things, and it's going to make you look at yourself and your teaching and your current classroom in a different way. I hear all the challenges that it faces, but I'm going to go to the next slide so we can talk more about these words.
Okay.
Now, so cultural relevance. Now, culture back in the days meant one thing. It meant, I'm from Jamaica, and I'm gonna run and get my charger. I forgot I'm on for so long. I'm from Jamaica, and I'm basically speak patois, and I do no mommy talk right now. And I speak patois, and I'm able to use slangs that we develop each day. And I'm basically, what do you call it now? I'm surviving based on the cultural norms that are there. However, things and time are changing. And so the way we think of those things has to change as well. Cultural relevance take into consideration a lot more than that. It goes into being able to reach the kids according to their slang speech. It's not going to be perfect. And give me 1 minute. I'm getting an extension card if you don't mind. But let me say this before I move. Cultural relevance now has to do with texting. Is it bad that kids text talk? Or could I make a difference in the way that I use this as a tool to teach kids a different way? Linguistics, the language that they're using in class, is it formal or informal? Can I teach them appropriateness versus inappropriateness? When is it important to use this type of language? Because they need to know that this is who I am and I'm going to stay this way. you know, but it's about when do I use it, you know, and having them master the actual formal language and know when do I code switch. And systematic teaching is based on that fact. How do I use these deficits and make them a platform to make it better? Positive learning outcome, how can I control this a little bit more? Am I differentiating enough to where I don't lose my students? I don't make them feel like failures, and that what they're learning that they bring to the classroom is not sufficient and not good enough. Which brings me to this little picture on my slide. If you want to make it through, just be yourself. They have to know that I can speak patois and still be myself. But what's important is not that I speak formal English, but I know how to code switch. So give me 1 second. Let me just get an extension card and plug this thing up. And I should have done that already. So bad teacher. Hold on.
I agree 100% bad teacher. She gone.
I'm right here. I'm just plugging in my extension card so I don't have my daughter running in here to talk to me while I'm doing this and getting it done. If I use my desk, then I'm in trouble because she's gonna come and think it's time to talk to mommy. All right, got it.
So I was saying, I agree. Bad teacher, bad teacher.
Yes, it's really bad teacher, not prepared. All right, so going back to this. I'm not saying that anything you say is negative. I want to make that clear because everything you bring here or to your classroom is a positive. It's now learning to fix those pipelines and see, okay, what part of my thinking can I change to make this positive enough to have the effect that I want? Because what I hear essentially is that you guys are saying, this is a struggle. How do I overcome it? And it's all within this. So let's talk about the picture. Let me see this one. Leah, are you ready for this one? Everybody, take a look at the picture and tell me what you see.
First of all, I was saying that I saw a mask in that white section, mask on the back of her head. I don't know what she's doing with a mask. It's 2 eyes and a mouth and nose there. It's a white mask on the back of her head.
What do you see, Michelle? Michelle?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, now I am.
I see an old woman. And then I see a young girl.
All right, so there is a younger picture to the left side, and at the front there's a feather sticking out. Now at the back, that could be an older person at the back, creating that cloud or that white image to the back of the person's head.
Okay.
Now I'm seeing, it could have been an ears, but it also looks like an eye, and a nostril where the jawbone is, the jawline right there. Yes.
Denise?
Well, I see a nice dressed woman with feather in her hair. And then I'm also seeing, I don't know if there's another face somewhere there that looks somewhat not so young and beautiful like the one at the front right there.
Now this picture is one more person is on here. Where is she?
Yes.
Marcia?
I'm here.
Okay, what do you see?
I'm seeing a young girl. I'm just seeing a young girl, like she's standing beside something with a feather. I'm not sure if that's in her hair or it's just there.
Okay.
That's it.
It's amazing. In the first class, I told them that every conference I've been to and they've shown this picture, they've always seen a cow. Somebody always say they saw a cow. And this time you guys see an old woman and a young woman. This is meant to show perspective. And this is what your students see when they walk into your classroom. They have a perspective. They look around and they start seeing you. They see what's in the class. Is the classroom inviting? Is this going to be a good year? Am I going to feel like this classroom is going to be a comfort zone for me? Or am I looking at a mean old teacher who's about to press me, don't understand me, don't want to understand me, and just want me to do things her way? That's what it's going to come down to when a student walks into your class. Perspective. Everything, you have a perspective of them, they have a perspective of you. And the world is the same way. It's a judgment, right? So if a child feels judged coming in, what do you think his performance rate is going to be? Is it going to be one that's going to be improving, or is it going to be one that, okay, just stay stagnant, don't go anywhere, unmotivated, not having the tools to move on because I didn't get a good sense when I first walked in, you know? So let's kind of apply what we learned so far. I want you to take a time, take a little moment, few seconds, and examine your use of deterrence, intervention, and incentives. How are you using deterrence? What are the things you're doing to stop a behavior? Interventions, what are the tools that you're using to encourage a child to change their behavior? And what reward system do you have in place currently in your own classroom? And I'd like you to just jot down some ideas on your paper and then get ready to talk. I'll give you about 45 seconds for this. And again, I'm timekeeping because I want you to remain engaged for a short period of time. And so I'm monitoring this. All right, timer just went off. So I'm gonna ask at least one person to share. Not Michelle, not Venice. In fact, I'm kind of calling out Marcia. Marcia. What was a point that a salient point that you wrote?
Actually, I'm one of the students who still needs more time.
Okay, not a problem.
Just another minute.
Good that you're telling me that. So what I'll do is I'll ask someone else to share while you're getting your thoughts on
yes.
it. Okay. So I need another volunteer to share.
Marcella, even though she says she's sick, make her talk.
Come on, Marcella.
When I hear her voice all evening.
And that's the reason. All right, so when a child is displaying negative behavior, it shows that the child is having a problem, whether it be physically or emotionally. Sometimes they're not able to express what they are feeling, so they may behave a certain way towards the children or towards maybe a teacher or for anyone in the class. So it is for me now to find out what is happening with that child. Sometimes when they haven't had any breakfast and they come to school, they're not able to concentrate on what we're doing for that particular session.
Mm-hmm.
It's for us or me to take the time out to understand what the child is going through and to see how best I can help that child.
Good. So what are like some interventions that you currently use, or incentives that you currently use in your classroom?
Because my school is in a little ghetto area, like when they're displaying certain behavioral acts, did they have breakfast this morning? Did you sleep last night? No, miss, I didn't have any breakfast. I'll say, okay then, let's go and get you something to eat then. That would be one of my first reasons, most times. And most times I'm very correct. They might not have any breakfast in the morning, and so they come and display certain, what do you call it now? Undesirable behavior, most times.
Mm-hmm. I like that you said that. I'm giving immediate feedback. I'm modeling immediate feedback right now. I like that you said that. In my last session, that was one of the examples I used, because a lot of times we forget that these ACEs, these life circumstances that are so difficult for these kids, are creating behaviors that we consider undesirable. But for that kid in that moment, he's not seeing the way he's treating or reacting to someone else, but rather is more like, okay, I have a need that's not met and I need to show it. So really good example. And where's my friend Marcia?
Okay, I'm here. As it relates to, all right, in my current position where I'm at now, I'm not really working firsthand with the students. I work mostly with the teachers. So when they have behavior issues, what I tend to do is like, I would ask my teacher, what do you think would have caused the child to be behaving in a manner as this? Then I would use a session, take that child and the teacher, especially if it happens during their class time. I will not actually ask the teacher to leave at that time, but I will wait. And then after the session, then I will take teacher and student together, and then we will try to find out what caused this, why you're behaving in such a manner. And on a regular basis, day-to-day basis, where sometimes they keep acting up for many different reasons. Sometimes they just make, somebody may just say something to them, and they just keep answering, even when they don't have to, because sometimes we'll say to them, you don't have to answer to every argument, or everything does not require your response. Sometimes you need to ignore some of them, even they still ignore things. So what I would ask the teacher to do is like have some little behavior contracts for them, and the behaviors that they should display when they're in class. And then if the incident happens in the class, then they would take out their behavior contracts, and then they would check to see what sort of behavior they manifested, and then they talk about it, and we give incentives for these. So it's either you get an incentive or you don't get an incentive, or what we find, what are you going to do? Either you're going to have to write a written apology, or depending on what happened. So that's what I would do.
Could you just 1 second? This is Leo.
Yes.
Dean Thomas. Thank you, Nicole, for coming on. Welcome. Just wanted to wanted to acknowledge both Dean and Nicole to join in the class. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for joining as well. Now, one thing that I want to reiterate is that
it's okay. I'll mute him. I'll mute this. I'll mute the sound.
I apologize. I have a 5-year-old and I've taken over her room. And so that's why she's like banging on the door. I have to tell her to stop that.
Okay.
About time. Sorry for that. So one thing you'll learn in your own classroom, as in this conference here, is that linear learning happens. We can learn from each other because the teacher is not the expert. So it becomes everybody's participation and everybody's contribution allows you to hear what others are doing, and then you can develop your own craft based on things that people are doing. I especially like that you have a behavior contract, which is something that allows the student to be accountable for their own behavior and have a means of understanding these are the steps that I need to take. And I'm going to talk more about that. Now, I'm going to go over to the 7 habits of highly effective people. Now, this is based on this book again by Stephen Covey. Now, one of the reasons I love this so much is because these are steps that you can learn at an early stage that goes on throughout your entire life. Now, first step is being proactive, understanding that you're in charge. And a behavior contract can help a student who has a learning disability or a behavior disability, like ED, emotional disorder, where students just act out on impulse and there's no way that the teacher can redirect. But if that is happening with a student, helping them to understand that they're in charge can take them to the place where, okay, I'm no longer going to be, I don't have to be disruptive because I have tools to help me to understand how to change my behavior and adjust myself accordingly. Beginning with the end in mind is a goal-setting platform that a teacher works on. So what does that look like in your classroom? Do you have your rules and expectations visible inside the classroom? Is there a list of 5 or 6 things that are non-negotiable in your room? We know every country, every city, everywhere you go in life has rules and regulations that everybody has to follow. Your classroom should have a written code of conduct posted clearly for students to see. These are my visible expectations, and you cannot at any point not follow these rules because they will have a consequence. If you do follow them and you are proving to be a good citizen, I can give you a reward. But beginning with the end in mind means that whatever behaviors you think that are going to potentially be a hazard in your classroom or be that deflection in your classroom where you're losing student engagement, you have to think about how am I going to provide a guideline that allows students to understand that, okay, this is what is expected and this is what will happen if you don't do it. And that has to be posted. 2 separate posters within your classroom at all times from beginning to end of year. Students also need to understand putting things first. And a lot of times we tell them verbally, but we don't show them because we come in expecting that they know this. But remember, not everybody have good role models at home. So teaching students a step-by-step process on how to monitor putting things first. When I come into the classroom, you must put your backpacks on the back of the chair. You must take out your pen and the book that you need. You must begin reading before the teacher stand and get to the board. That helps students know that when I enter the classroom, I am not going to start being disruptive, walk around, talk to my friends and all of that, because that is not an expectation. And then if they don't, what are you going to set as a consequence? And that consequence cannot be a punishment, because when you punish, you stop the behavior, but you don't teach one. So it's not going to change. It is only going to stop for a short period of time, which makes your life much more difficult. Students also need to understand the think win-win situation. A lot of students have a whole lot of adverse tragedies that have happened through their life, and they learn that I'm not a winner. And you have to find a way to change that mindset. So I can be all things good. I can achieve. That is the purpose I am here. I can focus on becoming the person that I want to be deep down inside, so that I can be accepted by all. And that, you know, in this forum, I am important and valuable. And then also as teachers, our idea is not to ask questions first, but to expect kids to do what is asked. So we have to be mindful of that, seeking to understand why behaviors are happening. You know, I forgot, I think it was Marcella who said that when the student comes to school hungry, she knows that this is possibly a problem, and so she plans for this. That is seeking to understand the student before asking them to understand what your rules are, you know, so that you can provide those intervention. Synergizing, get students to work together to practice, 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 and practice some more when they don't get it, until they get to the point where they are almost expert and you now need to sharpen that saw. Take them to the next level. Just like Michelle said, when my students come into my classroom, at some point they're going to go into the working world and they're expected to write a resume and a business letter and know how to work inside of an office. That is how you get them to that stage. They just don't get there. You have to walk through step by step until they have mastered one step. You go to the next, which takes me to the 5-part strategy. Teachers have to start thinking about, how do I make my invisible expectations visible? 1, I can post it on a poster. 2, I can ask students to write it in their notebooks. I can present them with flyers of it, depending on the resources that you have available. Are my consequences visible? Do a student know that if they come into my classroom unprepared and then interrupts me by just shouting out, well, can I go get a pen, miss? They need to know that that is unacceptable. And if you do that, what will happen? Or what are my alternatives? Instead of doing that, can I raise a finger sign to show that I need a pen? Or are there pens available in the classroom that I can just go and borrow one and then replace it when I'm done? They need to have that guidance. Now, next is helping students to understand your purpose. I am teaching you this because you are going to go on an interview and you're going to need to do this in order to get the job. Don't just say, because I said so. Practice, practice, and more practice. They're not going to get it the first try. And like Marcia said, I'm one of those students that need more time. There are students who need more practice. Give them immediate and intermittent feedback until they get to the point where they're doing it enough where you can stagger the reward and then give it to them during a major change situation. And don't forget to reteach as necessary. They are going to forget, you know, and so in that moment you're going to need to remind and show them the steps again. So again, are your steps for that skill visible in your classroom? Can the student see it in order to self-monitor, or do they need to depend on you as a facilitator 100% of the time? That's where it goes. Now,
Octavia, it's late. I'd just like to let everybody know that it's a video session. So if you're not on video, you probably will either be kicked off
after
in a minute, or you probably won't get a certificate after the class.
okay, so to make sure that you're on video.
Thank you.
All right, so this slide is a little bit deeper, but I can do it in a very short period of time, and then I'm going to get some feedback from you after the next slide, okay? So consequences, there are 3 types. There's a positive consequences, which is where you reward behavior. And I want you not to always give kids things, but to fill their cups with compliments. Intrinsic reward are much greater, yields much greater success than when you're giving a kid a sticker or a candy or something like that. Okay, so what you want to do is fill their empathy cup by giving them more rewards about themselves. Oh my God, you are looking so great today. Oh, you're smiling today. I notice you're smiling. You know, that kind of thing will get more out of a student than if you just say, okay, do this and I give you a sticker. When you give that kid the sticker, that's where their engagement ends. So you don't want to do that. You want to use more of that. Negative is the punisher. Are you the person who is saying, you know what? You didn't do this today, so here's this. This is what's going to happen. You got the tension. Okay, well, I'm going to go sit in the tension, and I'm going to go sit there every day because now I know you don't love me. You aren't trying. You don't want to listen to me. I don't have to listen to you either. The corrective teacher is the most effective. That is the teacher who look at the student and say, you know what? I noticed today in class that you were really trying. And for some reason, I noticed that even though you were trying, you weren't getting the concept. What do you think is happening and how can we address that? Ask the kids to become a participant in their own learning task. Notice at no point in that sentence did I say but. What a kid hear when they hear but is that you're about to judge them. You're going to say to them, you didn't do X, Y, Z. And that hurts. So you lost the kid once you said but. Eliminate the but from your statements. Next is the communication. Are you a constructive, assertive person? Are you looking to build a believer in a student, or are you looking to tear down a student by saying, you didn't do this and you didn't do that and pointing a finger at them? You know, are you empathetic? Are you understanding that their life conditions is a part of their problem and that the only difference maker in their life possibly is you? You're the only person that is giving them that hope to know I can learn, I can be successful, I can change the world, I can be
Okay, Lana, take care.
right? Problem solving. Are you seeking to help kids become problem solvers? Or are you pointing the finger and say that you're a problem? That's the difference between a child changing their attitude to become more engaged in what you're teaching, buying into the process, and also believing that I can do this and I'm going to have a positive learning outcome. So, intervention strategies, where do we go with it? You want the least learning disruption. So you don't want to have your kids getting up, walking out, or, you know, doing anything, being on their cell phone or cussing you out or anything of that sort. So your job is to provide written code of conduct, make sure students understand the procedures and why they're doing it, and then practice teaching, reteaching, and so on until they get there, because that lessens the disruption. It also lessens the unpleasant feeling of I'm not good enough, of you being the other person, just like everybody else who have said that you're not going to come out to nothing. Is it also, it will also equal to the least time and effort. In the beginning, you're going to have to put in a lot of time and effort, but eventually, guess what? It becomes so easy and rock steady that you will sit back and kids are going to be able to say, oh my God, I made a mistake. Oh, let me fix this. And it really happens. Now, there is a 3-tier system for intervention planning. The bulk of your students is going to be at the bottom in the 80%. That's where students are able, they're good learners, you can prevent behavior challenges for these students. But you're going to have your tier 2 students who need a little specialized intervention like a behavior contract to keep them on task. And they
so that may ask long time,
will
babes.
become that person that is able to monitor their own behavior. But there will be the kids who have a learning or behavior disorder that might manifest like they're a rude person and they're disruptive, but they're not. They're the ones that need individualized intervention and more step-by-step, hold your hand kind of process to get them to where you want them to be. And this, you will find that once you've identified your tier 3, which might be 1 or 2 students, you will work with them individually and it lessens the behavior issues you have right across your entire classroom. That's something that you're going to try to work towards. I want to stop and check in with you. Is there anything you see here that resembles issues that are in your classroom, and how are you dealing with these kind of problems? Now let's take about 15 seconds and think about that, because I know you're probably identifying it as you go. And when you're ready to share, just chime in.
Like when you have paper, somebody's on
Who's speaking? I can't tell who's speaking. Is that Marcella speaking? No?
Actually, could you please rephrase the question for me?
So now that we've went over these two slides, the consequences, the 3 types of consequences, the communication and intervention, and we've also talked about the 3-tier system. How is this, what are you thinking about your own classroom? How does this, what it looks like in your classroom? What are steps that you've taken, or what are steps that you can take later on?
Right. Normally, if a child displays unsociable behavior, well, after I've identified if there's a hunger issue, then I would normally take that child to the guidance counselor to deal with further matters. But now, doing this course now, I'm able to have a dialogue with that particular student to find out exactly what we can do and how best we can help the child to cope in the classroom. And as you mentioned, that we have to practice and reteach certain strategies. So I'd have to let them know the expected behavior for the classroom. And every now and again, we'd have to go back to those rules to ensure that they are actually, you know, doing what is expected of them on a daily basis. So practice, practice, and reteach, and remind them, right?
Now, Marcella, remember, it is very important that you are differentiating for all learners. So make sure it's posted in your classroom, because you want to get it to the point where you're not talking anymore and that the students can regulate themselves. So you want to make sure that that is posted on a poster somewhere in your classroom, your rules and your consequences and your rewards.
So they can monitor themselves.
Exactly, yes. And that could turn into something like even a rubric where they're grading themselves. How did you do today?
Yes. Okay, very good.
Anybody else?
Artavia.
Who's speaking? I'm not sure. Is that Michelle?
Denise.
Denise, okay.
No.
What would be your recommendation for someone who doesn't really have a classroom?
Okay. So tell me more about that, because I have to have a visual of what do you mean when you don't have a classroom.
Okay. I teach physical education. I'm mostly outdoors. I don't have a gym. I don't have a classroom. How do I display my code of conduct, my rules, etc.? I have to keep repeating myself over and over again at every class I go.
Where do you do it on the yard, right?
Yes.
Somewhere on the schoolyard.
Right.
So is there a fence or outdoor where you can post it during the class
every
session?
time I go outside, I put it up and take it back down because it's gonna rain.
Yes,
Oh.
you have to. Yes.
Okay.
It becomes that. And what you do is at the beginning of class, you say, guys, remember that we have rules that we have to follow. You give the reminder, we have rules, there are consequences and rewards. And remember that we are in charge of our own self. We're gonna be proactive. And then you point to where they can find the rules, because yours is mobile. So you have to point to it to get them to know, oh yes, I can check on my own behavior right here.
Okay.
And if you have students who can't read them, then you possibly might start off your session each day having one student go through the rules and expectation before. But you must differentiate. It cannot be the same student all the while, because everybody else is going to look at that student as you're playing favoritism.
Okay.
So you have to give others a chance to be the reader as well, if that's going to be your way of reteaching and practicing your rules each day.
Okay.
All right. For me, my students, when I get them September morning, we make up our rules. What are the rules are going to be for the class, but we don't have them posted on a wall. We don't have them posted on a wall, but they know what the rules are for the class. So I think I think for the new year, probably that's what I need to have it done. But my classroom is not only for me, it is shared by other teachers. So I move from one class to the next. So I have different sets of students. So it would mean me having these written rules in different places
Yes.
and these classes are used by other persons. These
Guess
rooms
what?
are used by other persons.
You're about to be role model for those other persons because they might find themselves referring to your own rules right there. Yes.
Okay. In terms of where I see you have restorative justice circles and conflict resolutions, I do mediation for my students because one of the things that I tell them is that I don't think any child is bad and I don't put down students. I know that everybody's coming with their own different problems. So whenever they act out and behave a certain way, I will say, okay, all right, and then we'll have a one-on-one session we'll have our one-on-one session to find out what is happening, and we have our discussions and all of that. I will just sort it out.
Yes.
My first thing is not to send them to the dean of discipline or to send them to the guidance counselor. I talk to them first because some of the times they don't want to go to anybody.
Yes.
And I had one student, and I know she just sat there and she said nothing. I said, okay, you're not going to say anything. I'm going to just sit here so the whole time with you until you're ready. And we just sat there and we sat there for about an hour.
Bring
She
my
did not
charger
say
for me,
anything.
please.
And at the end of the hour, I said, "Do you feel better now?" She said, "Yes, miss." I said, "Okay."
There you go. There you go. And that in itself is differentiation because you're not treating every student the same. You're meeting them according to their needs, which is the art of behavior management. It's not about like telling them what to do, but it's about understanding them so that before you ask them to understand you, which is like perfect example right there. All right, so I'm going to go to the other side. So effects of reasonable and consistently applied consequences gives you a good outcome. Students learn that their choices about behavior have predictable outcomes.
You see what
That
that would
should
be?
teach the
Keep the
students
baby.
to learn to self-correct
We never
themselves.
step to pick him up.
Where our end
Stay
is.
where
That would be our end time.
you know,
Also,
someone knock you over
less
now.
interruptions are going to happen during the course of your teaching. So that in itself makes your classroom environment become more of a positive experience that is conducive to positive learning outcomes. Now, these are questions that you now have to assess yourself and reflect on and start thinking, oh my goodness, am I on the right track? What can I do differently? How can I change all of this to make my classroom a better environment where students are learning and being productive? The first one is, do you know why your students are making behavior choices? And that's something that you're going to have to sit down and look at each student. Do you know why that student made the choices that they make? Do you reward good behavior, including effort in a variety of ways? It doesn't mean that the student have to master a skill, a concept, or a behavior, acceptable behavior skill to get a reward. What it needs to be is that they made an effort. Do students always respond appropriately to your reprimands or corrections to their behavior? Could this be possibly that this child has a behavior disorder like emotional disability or something like that, right? Could this also be a factor of the way that I'm handling situation that
Come here.
cause an inappropriate behavior after I reprimand
I'll
or
come.
a student? Could it be because I'm saying but and giving a judgment? Could it be that do you avoid
Sorry, man.
threatening or overuse of certain type of strategies and failing to follow through with correcting student misbehavior? Have I been guilty of this? How can I change this? Do you actually teach a student step by step on how to do a desired behavior? Are you able to impede emerging misbehavior without losing time in your lesson? Are you able to stop emerging behavior and still keep a positive classroom climate? How am I handling each behavior situation, and is it causing other students to have a negative classroom environment? When you speak one-to-one with a student about a misbehavior, do you match their talk type situation? How are you handling it? Are you listening to the students? Or are you just trying to get them to understand what your point is? And are you consistent and efficient with your intervention and consequence? Are you able to follow through step 1 through 5, or do you get to 3 and forget 4? Are you following this daily? Is this a part of your routine? And now, guidelines to follow. Now, when you create your rules and your expectations, and when you are following through on these rules and these expectations, these guidelines are good to have. Do you teach rather than punish? Or is it the first break, you punish, give him a consequence, a rough one too, take something away from him? Are you practicing the same steps over and over until the student reach mastery? Do you understand that students need to be differentiated? They will not get it the first time you tell them. It doesn't happen like that. When I was growing up, my mom would say, I only want to talk to you one time, or one time only. And I mean, sometimes I didn't get what she's talking about. So how are you going to talk to me one time? I'm going to worry and fret and get myself into an anxious state because I'm worried that I did not get what you asked me to do. Are you consistent with it? Do you consider students' differences, their cultural backgrounds, what happens at home? How do they bring it to the classroom? Are you choosing your battles? Are you up for a confrontation with a student who is angry? Or are you giving that student time to go cool down and then dealing with it in your own time? What if you came in upset? You had a confrontation with someone before you walk into the school and a student has an issue. Are you going to deal with it then? Or are you going to give yourself time to cool down and tell the student you'll get back to them? How are you handling your personal self? Are you being in your professional mode? And are you considering what is appropriate for each consequence? Because you don't want to give something extreme when the student has only had one infraction. Are you saying to the student that you cannot make a mistake? Or are you saying that mistake make us stronger? That's what the guidelines follows. Now, there are 3 types of positive consequences, and you don't want to overdo it. First one is immediate. When you're teaching the student for the first time, you want to apply immediate rewards. You want to give them that, yes, you got it. That's what I mean. Yes. Why don't you go and help that partner? Because I noticed that you really understood it. As the student becomes more efficient, they're practicing, they're not effective yet, but they are practicing and kind of have a good level. Delay the reward so the student has a point to work up to. And then as a student master it, don't keep telling them how good, because that's going to get a big ego. So you want to delay it more so they have a question, is this my best? And then you give them once they've applied it in a big way. This page I want to send to you, but this is an activity page, and I've asked Leo in the first group, and I'm going to ask again that we're able to get your email so that I can send you a PDF copy of this, and this will give you an opportunity to practice some of what we discussed. You know, you look at some real life situations that has happened and then be able to say, what is wrong and how can I change this to make this a productive consequence? And then this will make you look at your own consequences too and say, well, you know what, this one is not good. I need to throw this out and I need to revamp this one. So I want to send this personally to each of you. And of course, you can get feedback from me at any time. on what you've written, or you can even present your own consequence and rewards and your rules to me, and I will look at it, and we can discuss how can we make it better, or I can think as a child and then say, you know what, this probably would have worked for me if I was a disruptive child. So that's something that I do want to send out to you. So I'll definitely, I'm making this promise. I'm going to stay talking to Leo so I can get it to you. And then finally, how can this whole process that we just went through help you to develop a model classroom? That's your reflective question. I want you to think about that. And I'll hear from one person because I know we're over time. So I'd like to hear from one person at least. How is this process that we just went through going to help you to develop a model classroom?
All right. Okay, for me, how can this help me to develop a model classroom? One, I need to ensure that the students know the rules of a classroom. It needs to be visible. Two, I need to ensure that whenever they, in terms of rewards, I really don't do the reward thing. I basically praise them. They do something good, I say, yes, that was very good. I praise them that way. If I see where a student understands something, I ask them to teach other students the concept because them get it. But there are so many other things that you pointed out that I do not use in my classroom. In terms of practice, and reteach. It's sometimes very hard to reteach some concept over and over again. The reason I have problems is because I'm at a traditional high school, and we really don't cater for students with certain disabilities. It is either you get it or you don't get it, so you get left behind. It is not where other schools that say, all right, that we have okay, we have the fast learners, and we have those who are slow. I have time to sit down with the slow ones and help them to spend time with them, so them get it. Because it's a traditional high school, we don't have that. We don't cater for slow learners, really. We really don't cater for them. We once had a pull-out session where those persons who couldn't read and write well, but they wouldn't turn up. They would not turn up for those sessions at all. So we try to help them, but it is not something that is consistent. They tried it once, it didn't work, and they never tried it. They did not try it again. So we know that they want us to write lesson plans that cater to learners with special needs, but I am not trained. I'm not trained to identify these things. But yesterday they want us to write lesson plans, differentiated lesson plans, but I'm not trained for that. So most of the times when I know that a child have a problem is whenever I get their book or they get a work to do, and I realize that continuously they are just not getting the concept. And then that is where I ask for help. But the help is really not there for them. It's really not there.
So Michelle, you just gave us an idea that maybe that's possibly something that we should think about, having a workshop on differentiation.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's somebody out there who is well trained. I am, but I don't know how it will cross train. I can teach you the strategies, but I don't know. We'll have to brainstorm together to make it work for you. But we could talk more about it, and you can reach out to me as well, and we can work on it together. I'm open to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But Octavia, Marcia, as Michelle just said that, yes, that's what is being required now in our schools for teachers to use differentiated instructions. But as Michelle says, most of the times you're not trained in areas like that. So at my school, Michelle, you don't have the apps program at your school? Michelle?
I don't know what that. No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, all right. So it's a program that the government is actually putting in place now, where we have the special education facilitators Like myself, and there's two of us at my school. So what we do when the teachers start complaining that, oh, we get these students and we don't know what to do with them, my other coworker and I is that we will identify the weaknesses. And as you say, sometimes we have the pull-out sessions with a literacy and a numeracy specialist. So we identify those students who are not reading at the levels, and then we'll create the individualized intervention plans for them, or with the group intervention plans. And then we will give those to the teachers along with the numeracy and literacy specialists to help those students. But as you say, and as she's saying, Miss Artavia, it's difficult because we have a lot of students who are not at the level that they should be, right? Some of even my grade 7 and grade 8 students, they're at grade 1 reading level, grade 2. Some are even at primer and letters. So just imagine they put those students in the classroom with the teachers at the secondary level. They're complaining that they're frustrated. So what I do sometimes is I do workshop with my teachers, especially for those students who are on the pathways 2 and 3. So I do workshops and help them how to do the differentiated instructions and break down the content for them. Some of my students are not writing, they can't write, so I have to have printed activities for those students to do. Some of them I have to give them a 1 sentence instead of a 2 paragraph or a 1 paragraph. We have to do a lot of copying and stuff to make the necessary adjustment for those students. So Artavia, it's a lot of work in special education here, and most of our teachers are not trained that they complain every day. They cry a lot. So we need help, Artavia. We need help. So if you get help,
definitely can't solve everything, but we are on the right track to getting marking it. Like you're saying this to me, and I just made a note for myself to discuss that. You know, we need that. We need to get some kind of workshop for that.
And most of the times too, Artavia, the resources are not there. We don't have the resources.
We have a workshop. Marcella, thanks very much. 1 second. We have a lot of workshops coming up in 2020.
Okay.
But Tuesday night, I want to invite a couple of you to focus group to look at assessing some different areas in which you need. So I heard the special education, and I have guys who are good at exceptional education and so forth. But we have we want to get you into situations where you identify your needs so that we can help them in the coming year. You understand?
Yeah.
In the years to come. So we are willing to help. And this is why this has started, because we identified that there are a lot of gaps that need to be filled.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Marcella, please, I don't want to take that away from you, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, with the differentiation instruction, I do understand that students do benefit from this type of instruction, but I'm saying at the end of the year or at the term when you're giving the testing should also show the differentiation as well. You cannot expect us to be doing this type of integration and then at the end of the year or end of the unit, then you're giving them one standardized test where we have children who cannot read, not even to say name, to put your name and date. Some of them are having real challenges. So that's it.
I'll say this, Marcella. I know for here in California, we faced that problem for a very long time because we have a lot of immigrants that come in, and unfortunately, a lot of these kids never been to school before. And we've been talking about it for a very long time. And I mean, the help, that is going to be a continuous struggle for you guys. Let me just be very honest, because we're still facing that very same struggle here. And I've talked to friends that I have in Europe, and they also still have those struggles as well. So it's going to be a continuous problem. But what can help is having teachers trained in the art of differentiation. You will not be able to bring a kid up who can't read all the way up to a 6th or 7th grade level, you know, in 1 year. That's a miracle. That's a kid who is like a genius. But you can take them to the next level, and any little bit is good. So if they couldn't write their name and they can write their name at the end of the year, then that is good. And praise them and you praise them and you praise them for being able to do that. And if they couldn't read a line and now they can read at a preschool or a first grade level, you praise them and you praise them because you're closing the gap. You know, there's something called the Matthews effect, where it says for every grade level that a kid goes to and they're not able to meet that level, their gap in learning and being able to master skills throughout their life is widening, and less opportunities that child will have in becoming a successful person, period. You know? So that creates a lot of behaviors, and those are the things that are struggles consistently for teachers all over the world. But Jamaica is finally moving in the right direction with special education, and the hope is that we can somehow provide some kind of support to get them at a higher level and help teachers to become, you know, equipped with the tools that they need to provide that kind of intervention,
Yes.
which is where I'm proud.
It's a work in progress.
Yes, yes.
It's a lot of work.
It is. It is. And that's why teachers take special people to become teachers. We are like the Jesus movement. You know?
Indeed. I beg to second that. I beg to second that.
We are definitely in the Jesus
Yes.
movement, I'm telling you. You know, but
The only difference though at my school when it's the end of year examinations, and I ensure that those students who are not at the level, the teachers have to set exams that they are able to do. So
yes.
do the regular exams that everybody does. A
And with
separate
hope,
paper is written for them.
right. And with hope, even if it's the same, at least certain accommodations, like someone reading the exam to them
Yes.
and telling them
Yes.
so that thing can work too, you know, but someone has to write that manual, and it has to be the right person. It has to be the right person, a special person who understands the demands and understand the teacher. That person needs to be a teacher who will teach and resign and become that. Now it needs to be that type of person for it to work.
Right. Right.
Yeah. The struggle is real.
Very real.
It is real.
You
It
know,
is burdensome. It's burdening.
the statistics are that there are a lot less persons in America who are choosing teaching as a career. So the numbers are down. It's like 30%.
Just walking out
Less
every day.
persons who are entering university and are not choosing teaching as their profession.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're looking at in Jamaica is to start preparing students from fourth and fifth form for teaching profession. Because I was listening the other day to a gentleman speak, and he said when a child is at age 5 and 6 and 7, you ask if they want to be, they'll tell you that they want to be a teacher. Something gets lost somewhere by the time they get to 16 and 17, that they drop it completely.
Yeah.
And so we need to get back to that stage where we oh, you know what? I'm looking at Coach Willis's writing here. This is my. He says the situation is kind of different. I'm both a teacher and a track coach at high school, where I'm faced with challenges with my athletes. How do I ensure that I reach everyone in realizing their full potential in specific sports? Coach, I'm going to unmute you. Please go ahead and speak up for us. I didn't realize that you were trying to say something. So please, Coach, are you there? I'm unmuting you. He just turned off his video.
Okay, yes, I'm here.
You're there, please speak.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
And
Good evening.
Yes, right. I'm at a high school, right? I'm both a teacher of physical education and integrated science, and also a track and field coach. Now, for the classroom aspect, most of what were discussed earlier, we basically have a system where that has to be in place at our school, which is good. So the rules has to be made up by the students and teacher at the beginning of the school here, and that have to be posted, right? We also have where we have a goal wall and etc. set up, so the student goal for the year is placed and the teacher continue to remind them. But where I do have some challenges, because you know that there are different athletes. So you have the sprinters, you have the middle distance, you have the throwers, you have the jumpers, right? For a school who is just trying to do track and field then, right? And only have one coach to do all of those areas, you know. Some athletes will be left unattended to for most of the period, and most of the work would be left for them to do on their own, basically. So how do I make such adjustments so that I can reach and maximize the time better? So that is basically a concern that I have.
All right. So time management is a huge factor for, I don't know which teacher it isn't for. You know, every teacher I've ever spoken to, I've talked about time management. Again, it goes into differentiation and itemizing importance. So at some point you have to sit down and let the kids start thinking in terms of, okay, what is most important, what is second important, what is my third important thing, and they have to address it like that. And you will stop for some students, that is going to be a continuous struggle. It might not happen for some students. You probably are going to have to set the goals for them, you know. But it it all start with organizing the workload, organizing it. How am I going to effectively score this while that? And then there's downtime. What is happening during downtime? I don't know what that looks like in your school. In my classroom, downtime looks like free time is made into something that looks good because I give it a great fancy name, but then and I provide a fancy folder and the students know, okay, in my free time I'm working on this because, and I give them a what's in it for me. um well, it's posted on the board. It's a bulletin board, and it's called WIIFM, and that means what's in it for me. It has a microphone and whatnot. And as students begin to organize themselves well enough, their names are going up on that board. Again, it's an incentive to do better. But first, I have to teach how to organize before I can expect a child to get to that. And that's going to take a lot of work from you initially, but it becomes better as a system is in place. And of course, I hear you as a coach, you're probably going to have to collaborate with a lot of teachers who probably will give you a stink eye like, okay, well, what? You know, but you're probably going to have to work with another teacher to get ideas on what works in your classroom for the student, and try to figure out that middle ground with them. I don't know if I've answered it well enough for you, but
Okay, just a minute. My setting is not, it's well, it's on the field basically, right? So, the main concern or the main issue is that the sprinters are, they gathered at a different end. The distance gathered at a different end, while there's a different field for the jumps and also for the field event. Now, what I initially did was to get a few of the senior students who are disciplined enough to basically help to supervise. but there are still some shortcomings where to give that coach to athlete feedback then, right? Some of the time, some of the stuff would have missed my eyes, and for a athlete coach relationship to basically improve, you have to keep giving feedback and
Right.
critique and so on. You understand?
Yes.
So that's just basically I am entering into a Christmas camp with the team, and what I was thinking about is like getting a camera, like right, a video camera where I can basically video the sessions and so on, and then have a sit down session after training, and
For
we
feedback.
discuss. Excuse me.
For feedback.
Yes, for feedback. So I've never done it before. It's one initiative that I'm trying to implement now to see if that will basically reap any great reward.
Mm. This is at a school, right?
Yes, it is at a school. It is at a high school where the facilities are not really say up to date. We're just trying, as we say.
So one of the things that I will do for you, Coach,
Yes, sir.
is I'll bring someone in your capacity who's doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And see how they're, and so that we can bring that kind of similarity to see how they conduct their situations here versus what you do, because what you do is very unique. Very hard. Most high schools and other schools that are involved in coaching at the levels here, the coaches
They have their specialized
teaching,
coaches.
you understand?
Yeah.
So you'll find it at the elementary school, if the elementary school is very involved in sports, or at the middle school, and so we'll probably want to bring that to your to the forefront so that they can help each other. So I'll find that for you and see how we can help you in your daily. And she already said very, very important to organize time management.
Yeah, organization has to be a key factor, especially in sports.
Very key, very key. All right, but we're wrapping up. We have to wrap up.
Yes.
Yes. I have to thank you. This is so good. I ran out of time and I didn't even realize. Okay, we wake up. But I want to thank you guys so much. This has been wonderful. Coach, if you don't mind, can I use the question that you have here and press release? And if you don't mind, I'll use that. The question that you ask in the press release, get some attention to what you're doing. Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir. You have my permission.
All right, and then I'm gonna ask Marcia.
Yeah.
Communication person, right?
Yes.
Marcia, could you go ahead and send me a quote, like a quote from you, a special quote from you, so that I can put in the press release. Thank you guys so much. And last word for you, each of you. A piece.
Thank you. Thank you, Artavia.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leo. And so, Artavia, what if I would like you to do something like this at my school, where I set up something like this? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Just if you have a classroom.
Yes.
Right,
I would have
a major screen. A big
it's
screen.
something that I would want for my teachers, especially my teachers or pathway 2 and 3 teachers. I would, for coming January, I wanted to start off with a workshop for them.
Absolutely.
And I would love if Artavia
if you have a classroom with a big screen, with a big screen, bring them all one day.
Yes.
What day, and we can facilitate it.
I would appreciate that. So, Leo, do you take my email address? Do I be in constant contact with you and Miss Artavia? I need to know because it's important for me.
Yes, that's fine. You just respond to the email and tell me who you are, the email that we sent to you, and it comes right to me.
I will do so. Thanks for your time again, Artavia and Leo. Thank you for putting this together. It's greatly appreciated.
Okay, then, my time. I've not spoken in a while. You know, long to hear my voice.
Achoo. And a big smile.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say a very big thank you, too, because Artavia just made me realize that I have been fighting a losing battle. Because what has been happening is that the foundation was not actually laid for the students to build on. I did not set the foundation, yet I expected so much of my students when they did not know what I expected of them. So now that you have opened up my eyes, I see where I have to go right back to basics. Reel and come again.
Send that, come give me.
Yes,
Send me
reel
words
and
that
come
come give me.
again.
More on them words there, Venice. More on
Yes.
them words. Send them, come give me.
You understand me? Because so much, I expected so much of my students when they actually did not know what I expected. So the ground rules has to be set before they can actually, and then not only setting them, but I realized that I have to keep repeating them and let them practice until they get it.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And that
All
makes
right.
me excited that you made that connection too, because that's the heart of it. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you also.
Thank you very much for having us.
A lot.
Having me.
A lot.
Okay, don't take too long to talk back to me, though. You know, me
All right, and all right. Love you know.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good rest of the evening, guys.
Yes.
Beneficial to me.
And don't forget to send your email to Leo so you can get that last.
Will do.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, babe.